Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back to a place that feels both familiar and incredibly alien in ancient Athens. That we're not going to the Parthenon, and we're not going to hang out with Plato, at least not right away. Instead, you are going to become someone far more intriguing and far less understood, a Hetaira. Now, that's a word you might have heard. Often romanticized is this empowered, intellectual woman who captivated the greatest men of her time. And while there's a sliver of truth to that, tonight we'll peel back the glamour. You're about to live a day in her life. And to be honest, the reality is a grind. It's a high-stakes performance where survival depends on wit, theory, and a whole lot of work. You might not even survive the makeup routine. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for this little corner of the internet. And, as always, I love knowing where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments what city you're in and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see this global community of history lovers settling in for the night. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first hint of gray is just beginning to soften the blackness of the sky over Athens. From your window, you can't yet make out the shape of the Acropolis, but you know it's there, a silent, sleeping giant. The city is quiet. The clatter of potters' carts, the shouting of fishmongers in the agora, the endless hammering from the stonemasons, all that is still hours away. This is the hour of bakers and ghosts. And for you, the hour that work begins. You push aside the fine linen sheet, the air cool against your skin. This is a quiet, solitary moment, perhaps the only truly private one you'll have all day. In another house, not too far from here, a citizen's wife is also stirring. Her day will be dictated by the rhythm of the oikos, the household. She will oversee the weaving, manage the slaves, portion out the olive oil, and ensure her husband's home runs like a well-oiled machine. Her world is the courtyard, the loom, and the storeroom. It is a life of immense restriction, yet it also holds a kind of security, a defined and respected place in the social order. You have no such place. You have something else. Something that historians to this day are still debating the nature of, a precarious form of freedom. This freedom means you are not confined to a single courtyard. That means you can own property, manage your own finances, and walk through the city with a certain degree of confidence. But it's a freedom that must be earned, every single day. Starting now, in this pre-dawn quiet, you don't go to the hearth to start a fire for the morning meal. Your slave, perhaps a quiet Thracian girl who watches you with a mixture of awe and pity, will handle that later. Your first destination is a polished bronze mirror propped on a small wooden table. The face that stares back at you is your single most important asset. It is your business card, your shield, and your primary source of income. And maintaining it is a full-time job. You are not just a pretty face, you are a carefully constructed work of art. Then the artistry begins now. The sun isn't even up, yet you're already thinking about how you will look under the flickering oil lamps of a symposium that won't begin for another 12 hours. This isn't vanity, it's strategy. Every aspect of your appearance will be scrutinized tonight by men who are connoisseurs of beauty. They appreciate it the way they appreciate a fine vase or a well-argued philosophical point. Your job is to be both the vase and the philosopher. So you begin. It's a ritual. Cool water, perhaps scented with rose petals, is brought in a simple clay bowl. You wash away the remnants of sleep and last night's lingering coal. Your skin must be a flawless canvas. While most Greek women used minimal cosmetics, if any at all, your profession demands a mask of perfection. This is one of the many things that sets you apart, marking you as public, available, and performative. As you said, letting the cool air dry your face. You are not simply waking up. You are preparing for battle. The quiet of the morning is deceptive. The city may be asleep, but in your small room, The relentless, demanding business of being a Hetaira has already begun. Your slave returns, her footsteps soft on the cool floor. She carries a small, ornate wooden box. This is not a jewelry box, though its contents are far more valuable to your trade than gold or amber. This is your toolkit, the source of your public face. She opens it, and the items are laid out with the precision of a surgeon's instruments, small terracotta pots, a silver mixing palette no bigger than your palm, bronze styluses, and brushes made from animal hair. The first pot she opens contains a fine white powder. This is ion weight lead. It's the foundation of your entire look. You know it's dangerous. You've seen older women of your profession with grayed skin and a tremor in their hands. But it is the only way to achieve the ghostly pallor that the men of Athens find so captivating. Date and sun-kissed face speaks of a life of labor in the fields, the life of a common woman. Your skin must proclaim a life of leisure, of indoor pursuits, of being a creature of the shaded portico and the lamplight's symposium, even if that leisure is a complete fiction. Your slave mixes the lead powder with a little water or scented oil on the silver palette, creating a smooth, white paste. With a soft cloth, she begins to apply it to your face, your neck, your shoulders, and your arms. It feels cool and heavy, a thin layer of clay that masks any blemish, any freckle, any sign that you are a living, breathing being who has ever been touched by the sun. Use it perfectly still, breathing shallowly, trying not to inhale the fine dust. This is your armor. It makes you otherworldly, sculptural. It also slowly poisons you. That is the price of admission. Next come the cheeks. A different pot holds a cake of reddish pigment, likely derived from crustal canty root or reed ochre, mixed with beeswax to make it adhere. A light touch is key. The goal isn't a healthy, girlish flush, but a more deliberate, artistic touch of color on the white canvas. It's a signal of vitality, a suggestion of passion carefully painted onto a face of serene indifference. Your lips receive the same treatment. Stained a deep, inviting red, the color draws the eye, a focal point in the pale mask, promising clever words and tantalizing sips of wine later tonight. The eyes require the most skill. This is where your slave's hand must be steady as tea. She takes a fine bronze stylus, dips it into a pot of Espolos soot, essentially and carefully lines your eyes. The line is elongated, sweeping upwards at the corners to make your eyes appear larger, more dramatic, more mysterious under the dim, flickering light of an oil lamp. It's a trick of perspective, and you are the masterpiece. Then comes the most fashionable, and perhaps to a modern eye, the most unusual detail, the eyebrows. Today, a unibrow is not something many aspire to, but in your world, it is the height of beauty and a mark of aristocratic grace. Two separate brows suggest a certain simplicity. A single, connected brow is seen as a sign of intelligence and passion. Since nature hasn't blessed you with this feature, you create it. Your slave uses the same dark powder to carefully darken your own brows. And then, with delicate strokes, she fills in the space between them, creating a single, bold, continuous line across your forehead. It feels strange, this artificial bridge, but it is a crucial part of the uniform. This entire process can take hours. There is no rushing it. A single smudge, an uneven line, and the whole illusion of effortless perfection is shattered. And that's the great irony. Your profession is to appear effortlessly charming, witty, and beautiful. But the effort involved is monumental, a daily, grueling labor of artifice. Some historians argue that this elaborate ritual was a form of creative expression, a way for women otherwise denied public power to exert control over their own image. Others contend it was merely a gilded cage, forcing them to conform to a rigid, male-defined standard of beauty. Their bodies just another commodity to be shaped for the marketplace. The truth, as you feel the weight of the lead on your skin, is likely somewhere uncomfortably in between. As your slave puts the final touches on your face, you look in the polished bronze mirror again. The woman staring back is not the one who woke up an hour ago. That person is gone, hidden away. In her place is the Hetaira. Her face is a perfect, serene, and slightly intimidating mask. It is a promise of beauty, intellect, and companionship, all for a price. It is your most powerful to-love persuasion, designed to attract, to enchant, and to secure the patronage that keeps you from ruin. Your beauty is your business, and business, for now, looks good. With the mask in place, your gaze drifts back to the open cosmetics box. It seems so innocuous, a collection of small pots and delicate tools, but you know better. This box is a silent partner in your profession, and its partnership comes at a cost. Let's look closer at what's inside, beyond the finished product you see in the mirror. That white lid, the Siamite ion, is the star of the show. It is, quite literally, corroded lead shavings transformed into a powder. When you mix it into a paste, you can feel its unnatural density, a substance heavier than it ought to be. You've heard whispers, stories from other women in the trade. Talk of the colitis, a gut-twisting pain that comes from nowhere. You've noticed the slight tremor in the hands of Phryne, an older Hetaira who was once the talk of Athens. You sometimes wake with a metallic taste on your tongue. You dismiss it. You have to, because the alternative, a natural complexion, is professionally unthinkable. A tan face is the mark of a field worker, a fishmonger's wife, a woman whose life is dictated by the sun and soil. Your paleness is a declaration of elite status, a sign that you live a life of pampered, indoor luxury. It's a complete fabrication. Of course, your leisure is more demanding than any farm work, but it's the perception that matters. The lead is what sells the story. Then, there's the coal for your eyes, the black soot. On a good day, it's made from finely ground charcoal or burned almonds. On a bad day, or if bought from a less reputable merchant in Niagara, it can be mixed with antimony or even lead sulfide, which gives it a darker, more dramatic shimmer. It's what makes your eyes pop in a dimly lit room. But it also irritates. You're used to the feeling of grit, the slight itch you must never, ever scratch. You've seen women with perpetually red-rimmed, weeping eyes, their vision clouded over time. It's just another hazard of the job, a risk calculated and accepted. Historians today still argue about how much you and your contemporaries truly understood about the cumulative effects of these substances. Was the connection between the white lead paste and the slow, creeping sickness a matter of common knowledge, a known trade-off, or was it more of a vague suspicion, easily dismissed in a world already filled with disease, plagues, and unpredictable health crises? There were no medical journals to consult, no public health warnings. There was only the anecdotal evidence you saw in the women who came before you. A cautionary tale you hoped you could somehow outsmart or outrun. You likely understood it was harmful in a general sense. The way a soldier understands a battlefield is dangerous without knowing which specific arrow will find him. And the deception goes deeper. The rouge on your cheeks, derived from plants like cocaine tea root or minerals like ochre, is meant to mimic a youthful, healthy flush. It's the illusion of vitality, painted directly onto a foundation of slow decay. It's a profound, almost cruel irony. You are creating a vibrant picture of life using materials that quietly sap it away. Every element is designed to counterfeit nature. The connected eyebrows, so prized, are a carefully drawn artifice. The heavy perfume, perhaps jasmine or myrrh, bought at great expense from a trader who sailed the far seas, is meant to evoke an exotic garden, but its true purpose is to mask the faint, chemical scent of your cosmetics and the smell of a body that has been working for hours. You reach out and run a finger along the rim of a small clay pot, feeling the cool, rough texture. This box is your arsenal. It holds your weapons of seduction and your tools of survival. But every tool has its price. This box holds the secret to your public glamour and the seeds of your private decline. It allows you to build a goddess in the mirror each morning, but it demands a small, daily sacrifice from the mortal woman underneath. As your slave closes the lid, the soft click seems to seal the pact for another day. The face is on, the poison is set, the performance is ready to continue. Now, there's the matter of your hair. Now that your face is a perfect, pale mask, your attention turns upward. If your face is the canvas, your hair is the frame, and it requires just as much, if not more, architectural planning. A citizen's wife might tie her hair back in a simple, functional knot, perhaps covering it with a cloth when she goes out. Yours must be a sculpture. Your slave, who has already proven her skill with the cyme, ethicon, and coal, now takes on the role of the ornat-rix, the hairdresser. This is a specialized, highly valued skill. The styles you favor are not simple. They involve intricate braids woven like baskets, cascading ringlets that have been painstakingly curled, and towering hooptos that seem to defy gravity. The most sought-after look is the lamplight, or little torch. Your hair is sectioned, pulled up to the very crown of your head, then tied into a high, flaring ponytail that mimics the shape of a flame on an oil lamp. It's dramatic, eye-catching, and incredibly difficult to achieve with your natural hair alone. And that's where the secrets come in. Hidden within the structure are pads of wool for volume and, more often than not, entire sections of false hair, wigs and hair pieces, often made from the hair of captured slaves from Thrace or Gaul, are essential. You might be a brunette, but tonight you could be a redhead or even a coveted blonde, thanks to a skillfully integrated wig. The process begins with the calamistrum. This is essentially a curling iron, a hollow bronze rod that your slave heats in the hot ashes of a brazier. She tests the temperature on a damp cloth to cool, and it will hold the curl. To hotten it will singe your hair, filling the room with an acrid smell and leaving a brittle, blackened strand as evidence. You felt the sting of the hot metal getting too close to your scalp or ear before. It's a small, sharp pain you endure without flinching. Each lock of hair is wrapped around the heated rod, held for a few moments, and then released as a perfect spiral. This is repeated over and over. A tedious, time-consuming process, until your head is covered in a cascade of uniform curls. Then comes one of the more peculiar and, frankly, uncomfortable pursuits of beauty: hair color. Dark hair is common in Athens, but blonde hair is exotic, divine. It's the hair of heroes like Achilles and goddesses like Aphrodite. To achieve this, you might sit for hours on a sunny rooftop terrace, your hair plastered in a foul-smelling concoction. This could be a paste of pot ash, a caustic substance derived from wood ash and yellow flower petals, or other recipes involving vinegar rinses. You'd sit there, wearing a special wide-brimmed hat with the crown cut out, letting the sun and the chemicals do their work. Slowly, damaging lye, bleaching the pigment from your hair. It's a deeply unglamorous process for a glamorous result, and another example of the hidden labor behind your supposedly effortless beauty. Historians and archaeologists still puzzle over the precise vocabulary of these hairstyles. They see them depicted on statues, vases, and coins, but decoding their exact meaning is a challenge. Was a specific type of braided crown a subtle sign that you were under the exclusive patronage of a powerful general? Did a new style of curl, imported from Corinth, signal that you were at the cutting edge of fashion, and therefore with a higher price? We can see from the art that styles changed, but the why and what it meant are still topics of lively academic debate. The visual language was certainly understood at the time, but for us, it's like reading a book with half the pages missing. You, however, are fluent in this language. You know that the lamplight style projects confidence and drama, while softer, looser curls might suggest a more romantic, approachable persona for a different type of client. Today, the choice is the torch. It's a power statement. Once the curls are set and the false pieces are woven in, your slave uses beeswax and scented olive oil to smooth fly away and give the entire structure a glossy sheen that will catch the lamplight. She might adorn it with ivory pins, thin strips of colored ribbon, or even a delicate golden hairnet. The final result is heavy. You can feel the pull at your scalp, the rigid structure a constant reminder of the artifice. You move your head slowly, deliberately. This isn't hair you can run your fingers through. It's a wearable sculpture, the final touch on your transformation. You now look the part of a woman who belongs in the company of philosophers and playwrights. The physical construction is complete. The goddess in the mirror is almost ready. But her beauty is only half the product. Now, she needs to be able to talk. The physical transformation is complete. You're a sculpture, a masterpiece of cosmetic and if forel art. But the statue is expected to speak, and not just speak, but to charm, to debate, to recite poetry, and to flatter with such intelligence that the man being flattered feels like a genius himself. Your body is the vessel, but your mind is the cargo, and it must be just as meticulously curated. While a young Athenian citizen, a boy from a good family, goes to the Pol Est Ra to train his body and to a grammarian to train his mind for a future as a voter, a soldier, and a leader, your education has a different, far more immediate purpose. It is not for personal enrichment. It is a professional requirement. Your intellect is not a path to enlightenment. It is a weapon for survival. So your day shifts. The mirror is abandoned, and in its place, a papier scroll is unrolled. Scrolls are expensive, painstakingly copied by hand, and a luxury few can afford. Yours might be a copy of the Iliad, or perhaps the latest, most talked about play by Euripides, the one that scandalized the conservative old men. You don't read these for the sheer joy of the story. You study them. You memorize key passages, the most moving speeches, the most clever lines. Tonight, at a symposium, when a politician is drunkenly trying to compare his own small political victory to the triumphs of Achilles, you will need to be ready with the perfect, deferential quote. You'll need to recall a specific line about Hector's loyalty or Odysseus' cunning, and deliver it with an admiring glance that says, "Yes, you are just like him." Your education is intensely practical. You might spend an hour with a hired tutor, perhaps a sophist who has fallen on hard times and is willing to teach the arts of rhetoric to a woman for a few drachmas. He won't teach you how to win a case in a law court you'd never be allowed in one. He teaches you how to win a dinner conversation. He trains you to build an argument, to spot a fallacy in someone else's, and, most importantly, how to gracefully concede a point to a patron even when you know he is wrong. Your job is not to win the debate, but to make the conversation itself a form of high-class entertainment. Philosophy is on the curriculum, too. The name Socrates is on every honest's lips. This strange man who wanders the agora annoying important people with endless questions. You need to understand what HES talking about the nature of virtue, the ideal state, the theory of forms, not because you are searching for truth with a capital T, but because your patron might have spent his afternoon at the Lyceum and will want to rehash the arguments he heard. You are his intellectual sparring partner, his beautiful sounding board. Your role is to listen intently, ask insightful questions that show you're following along, and make him feel brilliant for explaining it all to you. You are a beautiful mirror for his intellect. This is the central, exhausting paradox of your work. You must be incredibly intelligent, but you must never, ever appear more intelligent than the man paying for your company. Your knowledge is a tool to be deployed in his service. It's a tightrope walk. Too little knowledge and you are boring. A mere pretty face no different from a common street prostitute. Too much, or wielded without sufficient deference, and you are intimidating, arrogant, a threat to the male ego. This leads to one of the great, unresolved debates among historians about women like you. They look at figures like Aspasia of Miletus, the famous companion of the great statesman Pericles. The writings of Plato and others suggest she was a towering intellectual, A teacher of rhetoric who coached the most powerful men in Athens. Was she a true philosophical mind? A genius constrained by her gender and profession, whose ideas were her own, or was she simply the absolute master of the craft you are now practicing, a woman so preternaturally skilled at intellectual performance that she made it look like the real thing was her wisdom genuine? Or was it the ultimate survival tool? Wielded with unparalleled grace, the academic world may never agree. As you roll the scroll closed, your mind is buzzing with heroic hexameter-escent philosophical concepts. You've spent your morning building a beautiful woman, and the rest of your day building a brilliant one. The product is now complete, a seamless blend of physical beauty and intellectual charm, designed and packaged for consumption. Every part of you, from your sculpted hair to your memorized Homeric lines, is now aligned for a single purpose: to survive the night. The papier scrolls are rolled up and put away, their silent wisdom absorbed for now. Your mind is full of epic verse and tangled syllogism, but the day's education is far from over. It merely shifts from the intellectual to the artistic, or what passes for it. Your slave brings you not another box of cosmetics, but a beautifully crafted lyre. It rests in your lap, surprisingly light. The sound box is a polished tortoise shell, its natural patterns buffed to a high gloss. The arms, curving gracefully upwards, are made of dark wood, and stretched between them are 7 strings made of taut, dried sheep gut. It's an object of beauty, but it doesn't feel like an artist's instrument in your hands. It feels like a tool. A tutor arrives. HES, not a philosopher, but a musician, a man whose hands are calloused from a lifetime of playing the Hetaira at festivals and private parties. He is here to ensure your own hands can produce the sounds that men want to hear. There's no talk of creative passion or self-expression. His instructions are direct and technical. Your finger position is lazy, he says, his voice flat. The plectrum must be held firmly. Don't strike the string. Coax it. You do as he says, holding the small pick made of wood or ivory and plucking a single, clear note. The sound hangs in the quiet room. It's a pleasant, calming sound, and that is often its primary purpose. At a symposium, amidst the loud chatter, the philosophical debates, and the drunken laughter, music is the thread that holds the evening together. Part of your job will be to provide a gentle, unobtrusive sonic wallpaper. You'll need to play soft, meandering melodies in the background. Music that is present enough to be appreciated but not so forward as to interrupt the flow of conversation. It's a delicate balance to be heard, but not necessarily listened to. But you must also be ready for the spotlight. At some point, the host or your patron will turn to you and say, "Play something for us." And, in that moment, the background noise must transform into a performance. You will be expected to sing, your voice strained to be clear and alluring, as you accompany yourself on the lyre. The songs are usually lyric poetry, perhaps a passionate, heartbreaking verse from Sappho of Lesbos, or a witty, romantic piece by Creon. Your performance must seem spontaneous, flowing from a heart full of artistic feeling, but it is anything but. You have rehearsed these songs dozens of times with your tutor, practicing every note, every vocal inflection, every dramatic pause. You also learn the musical modes, the different scales that the Greeks believed had a powerful, direct effect on human emotion and character. Your tutor makes you practice the stately, unserious Dorian mode, considered masculine and virtuous, but he spends far more time on the Lydian and Ionian modes. These are the ones the philosophers, like Plato, warned against. They were seen as soft, sensual, even decadent, uncorrupting. They were the pop music of their day, full of emotion and complex frills, and they are, of course, the most requested. Your job isn't to build the moral character of the Republic, it is to create an atmosphere of intimate, sophisticated pleasure. So you master the scales that are believed to make men feel relaxed, sentimental, and generous. It's a strange, now lost belief system that a sequence of notes could literally alter a person's ethical fiber. But for you, it's a practical part of your sonic toolkit. As you pluck a melody, a simple tune that has been passed from musician to musician, you're playing something that is now truly lost to history. While scholars have the instruments, the painted depictions, and even a form of written musical notation, they are still arguing about what ancient Greek music actually sounded like. They can reconstruct the scales, but the rhythm, the tempo, the harmony, and the improvisation are all gone, vanished into the air of millennia. The precise sound you are making now, in this room, is a ghost. We can guess at it, but we can never hear it. Your fingers ache. The gut strings are tough, and despite your best efforts to keep your hands soft and pale for public view, you have small calluses on your fingertips. They are the secret, tactile evidence of your work, a contradiction to the illusion of effortless grace you must project. The tutor nods, a rare sign of approval. Again, he says, and you do, playing the same sensual Lydian scale one more time. The beautiful sound fills the room, another product polished and prepared, ready to be sold. The lyre is placed back on its stand, its silence more telling than its music. The muscle memory of the melodies lingers in your fingers, but your mind has already moved on to the next, more perilous training ground, the intellectual gymnasium. This is where you truly earn your title, where you separate yourself from the women who offer only physical beauty. You're not just expected to be pretty, you're expected to be interesting. And in Athens, interesting means being able to hold your own in a conversation about philosophy. The city is obsessed with it. It's the bloodstock of the elite. Men gather in the agora, in the gymnasia, and at their nightly symposia to dissect the nature of reality, virtue, and the soul. And you are expected to be there, right in the middle of it. A lone island of femininity in a sea of masculine debate. So you study, but your study is of a peculiar kind. You aren't pursuing wisdom. You're gathering intelligence. You must be familiar with the latest intellectual crazes, just as you must be familiar with the latest hairstyles. You need to know the basics of Pythagoras and his strange obsession with numbers. The court enates of Heraclitus, who claimed you can never step in the same river twice. More importantly, you need to understand the living, breathing philosophical celebrities of your own time. Chief among them is Socrates. He is the talk of the town. This shabby, barefoot man who looks like a Satyr possesses the most brilliant and irritating mind in Athens. He doesn't lecture, he questions. He'll approach a powerful general and ask him to define courage, or a politician to define justice, and through a series of relentless, humble-sounding questions, he will leave the man utterly tied in knots, exposed as not knowing what he thought he knew. You must understand this Socratic method, primarily so you can avoid becoming its victim. You learn to answer questions with carefully constructed ambiguities, to praise the question itself rather than offering a clumsy answer. You become a classmate of Socrates only in the sense that you attend the same parties, but your purpose is the opposite of his. He seeks to expose ignorance. You seek to mask it, both your own and, more importantly, your patrons. Then there are the sophists, the slick, well-paid teachers of rhetoric who claim they can teach anyone how to win any argument. The conservative aristocrats despise them as moral relativists, but secretly, many hire them to teach their sons how to be persuasive. You learn from them too, but not to win. You learn to appreciate a well-turned phrase, to compliment a man on his rhetorical skill, making him feel like a master orator. And, of course, there is Plato, Socrates' most brilliant student. He speaks of a higher reality, a world of perfect forms, where the ideal chair and the ideal justice exist, and everything in our world is just a pale shadow. This is abstract, heady stuff. You don't need to believe in the world of forms. You need to be able to listen to a 2-hour explanation of it with a look of rapt fascination. You must be prepared to ask a question like, But how does the form of the good relate to the beauty of a simple flower? A question that sounds profound but requires no real philosophical commitment and serves only to show you we're listening. This is the great intellectual performance. You are an actress, and your role is the engaged intellectual companion. Your script is drawn from the great thinkers, but your improvisation must be flawless. You create an environment where a man feels like he is in the presence of a great philosophical mind his own. This is why the figure of Aspasia of Miletus looms so large in your world. She was the most famous Hetaira of the previous generation, the companion of Pericles himself. The historical record, written entirely by men, is deeply conflicted about her. Plato hints that she was a brilliant teacher of rhetoric who even taught Socrates. Was she a true philosophical force, a female genius whose mind shaped the leader of Athens during its golden age, or was she simply the ultimate master of your craft, so skilled at making men feel brilliant that they attributed their own ideas to her? Historians continue to argue this point with passion. They debate whether she was a source or a mirror, an author or a muse. For you, the debate is less important than the example. She represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Hetaira can achieve to be so intellectually captivating that history itself cannot decide if you were the student or the teacher. So you sit in the quiet of your room, long after the lyre tutor has gone, and you rehearse, not just lines of poetry, but lines of inquiry. You practice the art of looking thoughtful. You consider the personalities of the men who will be at tonight's symposium and tailor your potential conversations to their vanities. It is exhausting, invisible labor. The creation of a beautiful face took hours. The creation of a beautiful mind takes a lifetime of constant, vigilant study. The philosophical texts are put aside, but the performance is far from prepared. The knowledge in your head is invisible. The artifice of your face and hair is static. Now comes the most fluid and perhaps most deceptive part of your training, the animation of the masterpiece. You have built the perfect woman, now you must teach her how to move. Your body is not your own. It is an instrument, and it must be tuned to play a very specific kind of music. An Athenian citizen's wife moves with hurried modesty, her gaze often downcast, her presence meant to be self-effacing. A common street prostitute might move with an exaggerated, obvious sway, a crude advertisement. Your movement must be a third language, a complex grammar of grace that communicates confidence, intellect, and allure all at once. It must look completely natural, and it is, therefore, the product of intense and unnatural discipline. The training begins with the most fundamental actions. How to walk. You practice this not in the street, but in the privacy of your courtyard. You learn to move with a rhythm that is neither hurried nor lazy, a gait that is fluid and self-assured. It's a walk designed to be seen, to draw the eye in the bustling agora without shouting for attention. It must say, I am not afraid. I belong here, even though you know your belonging is conditional. Then, how to sit, not on a simple stool, but how to arrange yourself on a klysmos chair, a piece of furniture renowned for its elegant, curved legs. You learn to settle onto it without any awkwardness. Your back straight, your hands resting delicately in your lap. The pose must suggest attentive repose, making the simple act of sitting a form of decorative art. Most importantly, you must master the art of reclining. At the symposium tonight, you will not be sitting at a table. You will be reclining on a couch. Recline for hours. This is not a casual slump. It is a highly stylized posture, and it is physically demanding. You must prop yourself up on your left elbow, leaving your right hand free to eat. Just I see you late. Or, most critically, handle your wine cup. Your tutor, perhaps an older, retired Hetaira who now reigns the next generation, is ruthless. She corrects the angle of your elbow, the curve of your back, the arrangement of your legs. If you slouch, you look slovenly. If you are too rigid, you look tense. You must project an image of absolute, Languid relaxation while your core muscles are constantly engaged to hold the position. It is the physical embodiment of your entire profession, a performance of ease that requires immense hidden strength. You will hold this pose for hours, your left shoulder aching, but your face must betray nothing but serene enjoyment. And then there is the dance. This is not the wild, ecstatic dancing associated with the cult of Dionysus. Your dance is a performance of skill, control, and sophisticated charm. You might use KRO, small wooden clappers like castantes, to create a sharp, compelling rhythm, or you might play finger cymbals, their high-pitched, shimmering sound cutting through the noise of the party. The dance itself is often a narrative in miniature. Your movements might tell a small story from mythology, or simply be an expression of pure, sculpted grace. Your arms, your hands, your feet, every part of you moves with intention. This is another area where historians are left to guess. They have countless vase paintings depicting dancers in mid-motional egg kicked high, and arm elegantly extended, the body twisted in a dynamic pose. But these are frozen moments. They are photographs without the film. Scholars debate endlessly about the true nature of these dances. Were they slow and stately, fast and athletic? Were they purely for entertainment? Or did they carry a deeper, more erotic charge than the static images suggest? The answer, you know, is all of the above. The dance is adaptable. You read the room. For a more intellectual and subdued crowd, your movements are fluid and artistic. For a rodeo group, late in the evening when the wine has flowed freely, the rhythm might become faster, the movements more daring. Your body speaks the language the audience wants to hear. Every gesture is rehearsed. The way you lift your wine cup, the wide, shallow calyx, requires a specific, practiced grip. The way you tilt your head when listening, the way you use your hands to emphasize a point in conversation, nothing is left to chance. It all combines into a seamless physical vocabulary of enchantment. Your mind has been sharpened into a weapon. Your face has been painted into a mask. And now your body has been trained into a living sculpture. You are a complete package. A total work of art designed for an evening's rental. The sun is beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the city. The time for preparation is almost over. The time for performance is about to begin. The final preparations are underway. The hours of work on your face, your hair, your mind, and your body all culminate in this last, crucial choice: what to wear. Your wardrobe is not a simple collection of clothes. It is a strategic arsenal. Each garment is a message, a carefully selected piece of propaganda for the persona you will adopt tonight. You stand before a wooden chest where your clothes are kept, folded neatly with dried lavender to keep them fresh. You don't have the vast walk-in closets of a future queen, but what you have is of far finer quality than that of the average Athenian woman. Her clothes are made of rough, functional wool, designed for durability and modesty. Yours are made of softer wools, and more importantly, linen, fine, almost translucent linen from Egypt, a fabric so expensive it's a statement in itself. And then there is the ultimate luxury: silk, a whisper-thin fabric that has traveled the long, perilous trade routes from the Far East. It is astronomically expensive. Owning a silk garment is like wearing a small fortune. Tonight's symposium is an important one. The host is a wealthy merchant with political ambitions, and the guest list includes a general and a well-known playwright. This is not the time for subtlety. You select a chiton, the basic tunicorn by all Greeks, but yours is different. It's made of the finest linen, dyed a deep, rich saffron yellow. Most women wear off-white or muted earth tones. Bright colors are expensive and ostentatious, and therefore perfect for you. The color marks you immediately as someone outside the domestic sphere, someone vibrant in public. How you wear the garment is as important as the garment itself. The chiton is essentially a rectangular piece of cloth, artfully draped and pinned. A citizen's wife would pin hers securely at the shoulders with simple bronze fibule, i.e., her modesty paramount. You, however, use more ornate tints, perhaps silver-shaped like cicadas, and you arrange them strategically. You might leave more of your arms bare, pinning the fabric in such a way that it creates elegant, flowing sleeves that move when you gesture. The draping is a science. It must look effortless, but you and your slave spend a considerable amount of time adjusting the folds. The way the fabric falls over your hips and gathers at the waist, cinched by a gilded belt. It is designed to hint at the form beneath without being crude. A masterclass in suggestion. Over this, you might wear a hymphadion, a larger outer cloak. Begin. Yours is of superior quality. Perhaps a fine wool-dyed, Tyrian purple color, so rare and costly, it was reserved for royalty in other cultures. In Athens, it's simply a sign of extreme wealth. You practice draping it in different ways, thrown over one shoulder for a dramatic, confident look, wrapped more fully around you for an air of mystery, which you can then let slip at a strategic moment. Every fold, every drape, is a calculated part of the performance. This is another area of active academic curiosity. Scholars analyze vase paintings, attempting to create a grammar of drapery. They argue whether a certain style of wearing the hymphadion could signify a woman's city of origin, her social standing, or even her political leanings. For instance, a more severe, orderly draping might have been seen as pro-Spartan, while a looser, more artistic arrangement was distinctly Athenian. While this remains speculative, you are living the reality of it. You know that wearing your cloak in the style favored by the city's most respected matrons would be a fatal misstep, presumptuous and insulting. Your style must be your own, a deliberate and beautiful defiance of convention. Your choice of footwear is simple, elegant leather sandals, perhaps with gilded straps that crisscross up your ankles. They are far more delicate than the thick-soled sandals of a man who walks the dusty roads all day. They are indoor shoes, another quiet statement of your pampered, curated life. Finally, the jewelry. Not too much that would be gaudy, the mark of a foreigner or the newly rich. Just a few perfect pieces. A pair of gold earrings, intricately worked into the shape of doves, a delicate necklace of glass beads that mimic precious gems, and perhaps a snake-shaped bracelet coiling around your upper arm. A hint of danger and exoticist. You look in the polished bronze mirror one last time. Every element is now in place. The poisonous makeup, the sculptural hair, the memorized poetry, the practiced gestures, the political statement of your clothing. Nothing is accidental. You are a walking, talking, breathing synthesis of art and commerce. You are not just a woman going to a party. You are a product, perfectly packaged and ready for delivery. The illusion is complete. The woman who woke in the grey dawn is gone entirely, replaced by this dazzling, formidable, and utterly artificial creation. The sun has finally dipped below the horizon, and the city is bathed in the soft, purple light of dusk. The air is cooler now, carrying the distant sounds of life, a dog barking, the rumble of a cart on a stone street. You are ready. The vision in saffron and gold, the walking embodiment of ardent intellect. But before you step out into the evening, there is one last, intensely private task. It involves no mirrors, no poetry, no elegant postures. It involves a simple wax tablet and a stylus. This is the moment you stop being an artist and become an accountant. Your profession is a business, and you are its sole proprietor. Like any business, it requires careful financial management. The men you entertain are not simply admirers, they are patrons, clients, or, to use a more modern and perhaps more honest term, investors. And your survival depends on managing this portfolio of investors with ruthless pragmatism. You pick up the Pina-X, two wooden applets coated with a layer of darkened beeswax, hinged together like a book. With the sharp end of your bronze stylus, you begin to make notes. There are no romantic entries here, no diary of feelings. This is a ledger. Under one man's name, let's call him Icomdes. A general use all last week. You note the gift he sent yesterday, a small vial of rare Egyptian perfume. You make a mental calculation of its worth. More importantly, you make a note to wear it tonight. As you know, he will be at the symposium. He will expect to smell his investment on you. Next to the entry, you add a small mark. He had also promised contribution towards your rent. He hasn't paid it yet. Tonight, you will need to find a way to charmingly, delicately remind him, this is your accounts receivable. Under another name, Crichton, a young aristocrat with more charm than since you list a silk ribbon he gave you, a lovely but inexpensive gift. You note that his invitations have become more frequent, but his contributions have dwindled. He is becoming a bad investment, consuming your valuable time with little return. You make a strategic decision tonight. You will be polite but slightly distant. You must signal that your time is a finite, valuable commodity. This is the hidden, mental labor of your life. Relying on a single patron is the most dangerous mistake a Hetaira can make. His affections can cool. His wife might issue an ultimatum. His trading ships could sink in a storm, or he could be exiled for political missteps. To survive, you must diversify. You juggle the egos, expectations, and finances of multiple men, all of whom likely believe they are your sole, or at least primary, benefactor. This requires a memory that would rival a master of rhetoric. You must remember who gave you which piece of jewelry, who appreciates which poet, who is rivals with whom. Wearing the earrings from patron A to a private dinner with patron B is not just a social gaffe. It is a business catastrophe that could get you thrown out on the street. Your mind is a complex, cross-reference database of gifts, promises, vanities, and rivalries. This very practice is a source of intense debate for modern historians. One school of thought champions you as one of the ancient world's first true female entrepreneurs. They point to legal documents and historical anecdotes showing Hetaira, who owned multiple properties, ran businesses, and managed their wealth with incredible acumen. They see you not as a victim, but as a savvy businesswoman who carved out a sphere of economic independence in a fiercely patriarchal society. You are a CEO of your own personal brand. Another school of thought finds this view dangerously romanticized. They argue that while you may be practicing a form of commerce, the product being sold is ultimately yourself, your time, your body, your intellect. They contend that to call this business is to sanitize a reality of exploitation. Your management is not the free choice of an entrepreneur, but a desperate survival tactic in a system where your only real capital is a man's desire. The capital that depreciates with every passing day. Your economic agency, while real, is built upon a foundation of profound vulnerability. You, sitting in your room and scratching notes into a wax tablet, don't have the luxury of such academic debates. For you, it is simply what must be done. Lycum Des provides stability. Crichton offers access to a younger, fashionable social circle. The host of tonight's party, the merchant, is a potential new client, altogether a major prize if you can secure his patronage. You finish your accounting. With the flat end of the stylus, you smooth over the wax, erasing the day's calculations. Your ledger is now clean. Your business strategy for the evening set. It's not just a party you're heading to, it's a series of carefully planned business meetings disguised as pleasure. You rise, the saffron linen whispering around you. Your slave waits by the door with a lit oil lamp to guide you through the darkening streets. It is time. Your workday is just beginning. The cool night air is a relief after the stuffy confines of your room. Your slave walks ahead, her small lamp cutting a flickering, dancing circle of light on the unpaved street. The sounds of Athens at night are different from the day's hustle. They are more intimate, more isolated, the distant melody of a flute, a burst of laughter from behind a high wall, the low murmur of conversation from a passing group of young men returning from the gymnasium. As you walk, you feel the city's gaze upon you, even in the semi-darkness. You are recognizable. The saffron-dyed chiton, the elaborate hairstyle, the confident posture, they all mark you. You are not a citizen's wife, scurrying from one private home to another, veiled and chaperoned. You are a public figure, and this public space is both your stage and your gauntlet. You pass a small shrine to Hecate at a crossroads, its small lamp casting eerie shadows. A group of men, clearly already deep into their wine for the evening, see you. One of them makes a loud, appreciative comment, his words slurring slightly. Another makes a cruder remark, his tone laced with a mixture of desire and contempt. You do nothing. You meet their gaze for a moment, your expression unreadable, a perfect mask of serene indifference. And then you look away and continue walking. You cannot show fear. That would be weak. You cannot show anger. That would be unladylike. You must simply absorb it, let it wash over you, and project an aura of being completely untouched. This is a skill you have perfected. This is the central paradox of your existence. You have access to the highest echelons of society. In an hour, you will be reclining on a plush couch, sipping wine from a silver cup, and discussing philosophy with a general who commands thousands of men. You move in circles of power and influence that are unimaginable to the average Athenian woman. Yet, at the same time, you are in fames. It's a Roman legal term, but the concept is deeply Greek. It means you are disreputable. Without standing, you are officially, socially, and legally dishonored. You cannot marry an Athenian citizen. Any children you have will not be citizens. You cannot testify in most legal proceedings. You are, in the eyes of the formal city, a non-entity, a person without honor. You are both celebrated and reviled, desired and despised, often by the same men. This tightrope walk defines every public moment of your life. As you approach the merchant's house, you see other guests arriving. A group of men stands talking by the gate. When they see you, the conversation pauses for a beat. Their expressions shift. There is appreciation in their eyes. Yes, but also a kind of calculation. You are not one of them. You are a piece of the evening's entertainment, albeit a very high-class one. A living, breathing luxury good that the host has procured for their enjoyment. You offer a graceful, slight inclination of your head, a gesture that is polite but not servile. They return the gesto, their smiles a little too wide. You know what they are thinking. They are admiring the package, the beautiful product. But underneath, there is a current of social judgment. You are a woman who sells her company, who lives outside the respectable bonds of marriage and family. You are a source of pleasure, but also a source of potential scandal. This precarious position is a subject of endless fascination for historians. They try to reconstruct the lived experience from the fragments left behind a line in a play, a passing reference in a philosophical dialogue, a legal speech defending or prosecuting someone connected to a Hetaira. Some scholars emphasize your agency, arguing that, by willingly stepping outside the rigid confines of the oikos, the household, you gained a freedom and influence no respectable woman could dream of. You chose wealth and intellectual engagement over domestic confinement. Other scholars paint a much bleaker picture. They argue that this freedom was an illusion, a gilded cage. They emphasize the constant social contempt you faced, the lack of fundamental rights, and the ever-present risk of being discarded. They see you as a woman navigating a system designed by men. For men, a system in which your value was inextricably tied to your desirability and your ability to please. The choice wasn't between freedom and confinement, but between two different kinds of prisons. As you reach the doorway of the merchant's house, you take a deep breath. You are about to cross a threshold, leaving the relative anonymity of the street for the intense, focused scrutiny of the symposium. You smooth your chiton, touch your perfectly sculpted hair. The mask of serene confidence settles firmly on your face. You are ready to perform. You can feel the weight of their judgment, the burden of your social status. But you also feel a flicker of power. In that room, Among all those important men, you will be the center of attention. They may hold the power in the city, but for the next few hours, in that small, lamplight room, you will hold theirs. You step across the threshold, from the dark street, into the relative brightness of the merchant's home. The entryway is modest but well appointed, a sign of a man whose wealth is solid but not yet ancient. A slave takes your sandals, washing the dust from your feet in a basin of cool water, a standard ritual of hospitality. For a moment, you are in a kind of limbo, a transitional space between the public world and the private one you are about to enter. And it is in this moment that you see her. She is standing at the far end of the courtyard, near the passageway that leads deeper into the house, into the women's quarters, the Guinea CEM. She is the host's wife. She is not meant to be here, not meant to be seen by the male guests who will soon fill her home with their noise and laughter. Her presence is a fleeting, accidental breach of protocol. She holds a small child by the hand, and for a split second, your two worlds collide in the flickering lamplight. She is your complete antithesis. Where your chiton is a vibrant, provocative saffron, hers is a simple, undyed wool, functional and modest. Where your hair is a complex, towering sculpture, hers is parted simply and tied back in a neat, serviceable knot at the nape of her neck. Her face is bare, free of the laden mask you wear, and her skin, though she is likely younger than you, already has the fine lines of worry and responsibility etched around her eyes. She wears no jewelry save for a simple wedding band. She is everything you are not: respectable, domestic, legitimate. Your eyes meet across the courtyard, and in that silent, charged space, 1,000 unspoken words are exchanged. In her gaze, you see exactly what you expect to see: a cold, hard wall of contempt. It is the purest form of judgment, more potent than the leering of the men in the street. To them, you are an object of fantasy. To her, you are a threat. You are the living embodiment of a world of pleasure and indulgence that her husband dips into, a world that exists in direct opposition to her own world of duty, fidelity, and child-rearing. You are walking, breathing insult to her position, to her honor, to the very foundation of her life. But, as you hold her gaze, you perceive something else, something deeper and more complex than simple hatred. Is it a flicker of curiosity, a morbid fascination with the creature who lives the life she was raised to fear and despise? Perhaps there is even a sliver of something that could be mistaken for envy, not for your life, but for the fabricated illusion of freedom you represent, the freedom to walk the city at night, to engage in conversation with brilliant men, to wear beautiful, expensive things. She will never know any of that. Her world is this house, these children, this loom. Her reward is security and honor. Your reward is silk and poetry. And what does she see in your eyes? She would see nothing but serene confidence. The mask you have perfected, but behind the mask, you feel a complicated cocktail of your own. There is a sense of superiority. Perhaps you are the educated one, the witty one, the one who can navigate the world. But beneath that, there is a pang, a sharpened, undeniable sting of something you will never have. The simple, profound legitimacy of her position, the security of belonging, the right to that child holding her hand, a child who will grow up to be a citizen, a right denied to any child you might bear. You can be admired, desired, even paid for, but you will never be honored. Her world, the world of the oikos, is forever close to you. The moment lasts only a few seconds, but it feels like an eternity. Then, with a quiet trestle of wool, she turns. She pulls her child closer and disappears into the shadowed corridor leading to the Guinea Sea. The door is not literally closed, but a massive, invisible barrier has just slammed shut between you. Historians have very little direct evidence of these encounters. The relationships and feelings between Hetaira and citizen wives are a historical blind spot, as the texts were written by men who either weren't present for these moments or didn't consider them important enough to record. They are left to speculate based on context. Did these two groups of women, living in such close proximity but in utterly separate social realities, feel a sense of shared womanhood? Or was the animosity absolute? It's a question that remains, and likely will always remain, unanswered. The sound of loud male laughter erupts from a room to your left, the undrawn, the men's dining room. It breaks the spell. The silent, judgmental world of women is behind you now. Your world, the one you must conquer for the evening, lies ahead. You turn away from the empty, shadowed corridor and move toward the light and the noise. The performance is about to begin. The sounds from the undrawn grow louder as you approach. It's a distinctly masculine sound, a tapestry of booming laughter, loud pronouncements, and the sharp clink of ceramic wine cups. The air flowing from the doorway is warm and thick with the smell of roasted meat, spilt wine, and fragrant olive oil from the lamps. This is it, the moment of transition. Everything up to this point, the lead paint, the curled hair, the memorized verses, the financial calculations was rehearsal. This is the performance. For a heartbeat, you pause in the relative shadow of the corridor. A wave of something cold and sharp washes over you. It isn't fear. Not exactly. It's the familiar, professional anxiety of an artist about to take the stage, or a general before a battle. In this room lies opportunity, but also a minefield of social and professional risk. One wrong word, one misjudged joke, one moment of failed charm, and the entire evening, and the potential patronage it represents, could be a failure. A night like this can secure your rent for months, or it could mark the beginning of a decline in your reputation. Your mind flashes back to the day the invitation arrived. It wasn't a casual affair. A slave from the merchant's household delivered a small, rolled papers, formally requesting the pleasure of your company. It was an audition. You knew immediately that this was not just another party. The host is what Athenians call a new man. His wealth from trade, not from land inherited over generations. He's ambitious, and he wants to buy his way into the city's elite circles. To do that, he needs to throw the perfect symposium. And a perfect symposium needs the perfect Hetaira. Your presence tonight is a carefully chosen status symbol for him, just as his patronage would be a financial victory for you. Upon receiving the invitation, your work began. You didn't just accept, you started your research. You sent your slave to the market with her ears open. You had a casual conversation with another Hetaira who knew the host's circle. You pieced together the guest list. You know that Lycum Des, the aging but still influential general, will be there. Your strategy for him is set flatter his military knowledge with a well-placed quote from the Iliad and find a delicate moment to inquire about his forgotten promise. You also know Crichton, the handsome young wastrel, will be present. For him, the strategy is cool distance. He must be reminded that your attention is a privilege, not a right. But the main target is the host himself. You need to demonstrate your value proposition. You must be the most beautiful, witty, and charming person in the room. You have to make his other guests feel that he is a man of exceptional taste. Your performance tonight is an advertisement, and the product is a better social life for him, facilitated by you. This is a point historians still debate. How much choice did you really have when an invitation from a powerful man arrived? Was it truly a request, or was it a summons you couldn't refuse? Some argue that established Hetaira like yourself had significant autonomy, able to pick and choose their clients and engagements, managing their careers like modern freelancers. Others believe that refusing an invitation from a powerful man would be a dangerous, career-damaging move, suggesting your choice was heavily constrained by the power dynamics of the city. The truth, as you know, lies in a delicate balance of both. You could refuse, but the reason would have to be impeccable, and a direct refusal of an ambitious new patron would be foolish. Your eyes focus on the doorway. You think about the room's layout. The undrawn is a formal space, with 7 or 9 couches arranged around the walls in a U shape. Your placement in the room is not accidental. The host will assign you a couch, and that position is a public declaration of your status at his party. Being placed next to the guest of honor is a triumph. Being put on a couch near the door is a slight. You must be prepared to accept your assigned spot with equal grace. The anxiety recedes, replaced by a cold, clear focus. You have done the preparation. You know the material. You are wearing your armor of linen and lead. You are armed with poetry and pragmatism. The internal calculations are complete. You are no longer the woman who worries you or the product. Flawless and ready, you compose your face into a warm, intelligent smile, a mask of pure, effortless delight. The show is about to begin. You take a final, silent breath and step out of the shadows, into the lightened noise of the room. You enter the undrawn, and for a moment, it feels as if a wave of warm, noisy air has hit you. The room is brightly lit by a dozen oil lamps, their flames reflecting in the polished silver cups and the sweat on the brows of the guests. The couches are already occupied by men in various states of reclining, their dinner plates being cleared away by slaves. The heavy meal is over. The real event, the drinking and conversation, the symposium, is about to begin. As you step into the room, a hush falls. It's not a complete silence, but a noticeable dip in the conversational hum. Every head turns towards you. Every eye in that room, the ambitious host, the grizzled general, the arrogant young aristocrat, the slaves pouring wine, is on you. In this hyper-masculine space, you are an explosion of color, grace, and deliberate femininity. You are the only woman here. And for this brief, intense moment, you are the absolute center of this world. This is a powerful and deeply unnerving feeling. You are both the guest of honor and the main exhibit. You are being judged on a dozen different levels. The men are assessing your beauty, the quality of your saffron chiton, the artistry of your hair. They are taking in the entire package you have so painstakingly constructed. Your entrance is your opening statement, and it must be flawless. The host, the wealthy merchant, beams with pride. Your presence elevates him. It says to his guests, "Look who I was able to secure for our entertainment. I am a man of substance and taste." He rises from his couch, a gesture of great respect, and comes to greet you. "Welcome," he says, his voice a little too loud. "We are honored. The evening can truly begin now that its brightest star has arrived." It's a clumsy, rehearsed compliment, but you reward him with your most brilliant smile. "You are too kind," you reply, your voice pitched to be both musical and clear, easily heard over the load-in. A room full of Athens' sharpest minds is a constellation. I am merely a humble moon, happy to reflect your light. It's a perfect line, deferential, poetic, and subtly flattering to everyone present. A low murmur of appreciation ripples through the room. The general, like Des, gives a gruff nod of approval. You have passed the first test. The host leads you to a couch, as you had hoped. It is a place of honor, next to the general himself. This is a significant political move on the host's part, linking his guest of honor to his most powerful attendee. You recline with the practiced, boneless grace you have rehearsed, arranging your linen chiton around you. A slave immediately comes forward to fill your kilix. The wide, shallow wine cup. You are now part of the circle. You are a fascinating and jarring presence here. The symposium is the heart of Athenian social and political life. It is where laws were informally drafted, business deals were struck, and philosophical movements were born. And it was a space exclusively for men. A citizen's wife would never, under any circumstances, be present. Her world was the gyneceum, the hidden part of the house. Your presence here is a fundamental breach of the normal social order. You are a woman who has crossed the line, who has entered the inner sanctum. This unique position is something historians struggle to fully define. Were you seen as an honorary man for the evening, granted a temporary pass to participate in masculine discourse, Or was your femininity the entire point? Your presence meant to soften the rough edges of male company and elevate the conversation? The answer, as you know from experience, is both. You are expected to contribute to the conversation with intelligence that rivals a man's, but you must do so with a grace and charm that is distinctly feminine. You are a bridge between two worlds, and the toll is your constant, vigilant performance. You take a small, delicate sip of your wine. It's heavily watered down, as is the custom. The goal of the symposium is not to get blind drunk quickly, but to achieve a prolonged state of pleasant, philosophical intoxication over many hours. You are acutely aware of the gazes that linger on you. You are an object of desire, an intellectual curiosity, and a status symbol. You are a commodity, but for now, you are the most valuable one in the room. You let your eyes sweep across the faces of the men, making brief, smiling contact with each. Your performance has begun, and the audience is captivated. The initial buzz of your arrival begins to settle into the general rhythm of the evening. The host, having made his point by seating you so prominently, now formally begins the symposium. He appoints a symposia, RCH, a master of the drinking, who for this evening is the general Lycum Des. It's a sign of respect for his agent status. Lycum Des accepts with a nod and declares the wine to water ratio for the first mixing bowl 3 parts water to 1 part wine. It's a moderate, sensible ratio, meant to encourage a long evening of conversation rather than a quick descent into chaos. Slaves move quietly around the room, filling the guests' cups from a large, beautifully painted crater. As the wine begins to loosen tongues, the conversation flows. Politics, gossip, a bit of boasting about a recent business deal. You listen more than you speak, your eyes moving from one man to the next, offering a small, encouraging smile here, a look of thoughtful concentration there. You are a catalyst, your presence making the men feel wittier, more charming. Then, the young aristocrat Crichton, growing bored of the political talk, calls out, "Enough talk of sporta. Let's have a game of Coddy Boss." Each cheer goes up around the room. This is a staple of any good symposium. A drinking game that is part skill, part luck, and all performance. In the center of the room, a slave places the targeted all, slender bronze stand, on top of which is balanced a small metal disc called a plastinx. The goal is to take the dregs of the wine left in your wide, shallow kilts and, with a flick of the wrist, fling the liquid across the room to knock the disc off its perch. If you succeed, the disc falls and strikes a larger basin below, creating a satisfying clang. It looks simple, but it's not. It requires a specific, practiced motion. You can't just throw the wine. You must loop your index finger through one handle of the cup, recline just so, and use a motion that is more of a controlled sling than a toss. This is yet another stage for you to perform on. While the men might play for bragging rights, you play for professional advantage. Crichton goes first. He is loud and boastful, dedicating his shot to a girl he saw in the market. He swings his arm with far too much force. Then the red wind dregs splatter messily against the far wall, missing the target completely. The room erupts in laughter, and he takes it with a theatrical groan. He has provided entertainment, but has shown a lack of control, of finesse. The general, Lycum Des, is next. He plays with the quiet economy of motion you'd expect. He doesn't dedicate his shot. He simply reclines, aims for a moment, and flicks. The wine flies in a perfect arc, striking the plast in X with a loud, clear clang. He allows himself a small, tight smile at the appreciative shouts. He has demonstrated his competence, his effortless superiority. Then, all eyes turn to you. Your turn, the host calls out, smiling. This is a delicate moment. You must play. But how you play is critical. You can't be clumsy like Crichton, that would undermine your image of grace. But being as ruthlessly efficient as Lycum Des might seem too masculine, too competitive, You must find a third way, the way of art. You smile. A challenge I cannot refuse. You lift your cup, but you don't aim immediately. You look directly at your host. To the man who has blessed us with such a fine evening, may his fortunes ring as clearly as the bronze. It's a masterstroke of public flattery. No, the success of your shot is tied to his honor. You have turned a simple drinking game into a public compliment. You recline, extending your arm. The motion is fluid, graceful, almost like a dance move you rehearsed this morning. It is not about power, it is about elegance. You flick your wrist. The reed arc of wine sails through the air. It's in this moment that the odd, forgotten aspect of the game comes into play. For some, Kade Bas was just a game, it was a form of divination. The success of a shot dedicated to a lover was seen as a sign that the love would be returned. The sound the disc made was interpreted as an omen. It's a strange, superstitious little ritual. A piece of folk magic nestled in the heart of a philosophical drinking party. Historians still puzzle over it, debating whether this was a serious belief or just a playful pretense. Your wine strikes the target, but it's not the loud clang like a disc produced. It's a softer, more musical thwack. The disc is neatly knocked from its perch. A murmur of true admiration goes through the room. You did not win with brute force, but with a seemingly effortless grace. Your host is beaming. You have made him look good, and you have done it with style. You offer a small, modest smile, as if to say, though, just a bit of luck. But everyone in the room knows they have just witnessed a small masterpiece of social maneuvering. You have played the game, and in doing so, you have elevated it, and yourself, entirely. The laughter from the Kade Bas game subsides, and a comfortable, wine-fueled warmth settles over the room. The slaves refill the cups. Then the conversation, as it so often does, drifts towards more dangerous territory. The playwright in attendance, a man with a reputation for provocative ideas, leans forward. Speaking of arcs and targets, he says, a clever glint in his eye, I saw Euripides' latest work. He has the audacity to put a hero on stage who questions whether the gods are even worthy of our worship. A ripple of unease and excitement goes through the room. This is the intellectual bleeding edge exciting, scandalous, and for the more traditional men present, deeply impious. The general, like Des, scoffs into his wine cup. Euripides is a menace. He chips away at the foundations of our city. Duty, honor, reverence for the gods, these are the pillars that hold us up. He treats them like stage props. His view is simple, strong, and deeply conservative. Crichton, the young aristocrat who fancies himself a modern thinker, sees his opening. But surely, General, the highest virtue is to question everything, as Protagoras says. Man is the measure of all things. If the gods act unjustly, why should we honor them? Isn't our own reason the better guide? He delivers the line with a smug confidence, a second-hand idea from a famous sophist. The room is now divided. A classic Athenian debate is taking shape: tradition versus modernism, duty versus relativism. The host looks on nervously, hoping the argument stays stimulating without becoming a real fight. And then, as they inevitably do, all eyes turn to you. This is the intellectual trap. It is far more perilous than the Kade Bas game. They are not just asking for an opinion. They are testing your primary function. They want to see the mind they have heard so much about. You cannot remain silent. That would be a dereliction of duty. You cannot agree with the young, impudent Crichton. That would be an insult to the powerful general. But agreeing meekly with the general would make you seem like a simpleton, lacking the celebrated wit you are famous for. You take a slow, deliberate sip from your kylix, giving yourself a moment to compose your strategy. You place the cup down gently. The general's point about the pillars of the city is the very bedrock of our survival. You begin, your voice calm and measured. This immediately validates Lycum Des, soothing his ego. He gives you a slight, approving nod. You have shown you are not one of these newfangled radicals. You then turn your head slightly towards Crichton, offering him a small, conspiratorial smile. And yet, you continue. Crichton asks the question that fuels every great dialogue in the Agora. If we do not test our foundations, how can we be sure they are strong? You have validated him. 2. Framing his challenge not as impudence, but as part of a noble philosophical tradition. Now comes the crucial move. You do not offer your own opinion. You redirect, placing the intellectual authority exactly where it needs to be. You turn your full attention back to the general, your expression one of sincere curiosity, as if a thought has just occurred to you. General, you say, it makes me think of Odysseus at Troy. He was the master of tricks and deception, actions some might call impious. Yet, we celebrate him as a hero because his cunning served the greater good of the Achaeans. Do you believe, then, that an action's virtue is defined not by the act itself, but by its service to the city? It's a masterful deflection. You have taken the abstract, dangerous debate about the gods and reframed it onto the familiar, heroic ground of the Iliad. You have introduced a complex philosophical idea, a form of utilitarianism, but you have phrased it as a simple question seeking the general's wisdom. And you have attributed the core of the idea to him. You have made him the philosopher. Lycomdes leans forward, his expression thoughtful. He is no longer a gruff soldier, he is a thinker. An interesting point, he rumbles, launching into a long explanation of the difference between a soldier's necessary guile and a philosopher's corrosive doubt. The trap has been sprung, but you were not the one caught in it. This is the essence of your intellectual labor. Historians have long debated the true nature of the intelligence of women like you. When Plato or Xenophon quote a Hetaira as saying something clever, are they recording a genuine intellectual contribution, or are they depicting the perfect performance of a Hetaira as function to use her knowledge not to build her own arguments, but to artfully construct a platform for a man's ego? The line between being a muse and being a ghostwriter is almost impossible to draw from this distance in time. You didn't win the argument. You made sure the right man did, and in doing so, you have proven your immense value. The philosophical debate rages on, fueled by more wine and the men's growing desire to impress. You have successfully navigated the intellectual currents, playing your part to perfection. You've been a charming conversationalist, a graceful performer, a subtle flatterer. It all feels like a masterful game, and you, for the moment, feel like one of its most skilled players. But then, the atmosphere in the room shifts. The shift is subtle, almost imperceptible to an outsider, but to you, it is as clear as a crack in a ceramic cup. The host, emboldened by the success of the party and the quantity of wine he has consumed, places his hand on your arm. It's a possessive gesture, not overtly aggressive, but proprietary. He leans in close, his breath thick with wine and spices. "You are magnificent tonight," he whispers, his voice losing its earlier formality. "My friends are enchanted. I am enchanted." In that moment, the entire, carefully constructed illusion of your agency evaporates. The witty intellectual, the graceful artist, the savvy businesswoman, all those roles you inhabit are stripped away, and you are reminded of the fundamental, unshakable reality of your position. He is the patron, you are the client, but the language of commerce barely papers over the truth he is the master, and you are, in the end, entirely subject to his whims. Your entire livelihood, your safety, your social standing are bound up in this man's satisfaction. The expensive linen chighten you where it was likely paid for by the gifts of a man just like him. The food you ate this morning, the slave who helps you dress the roof over your head, all of it is financed by your ability to please men like this one, right here, whose hand is now resting on your arm with a weight that feels heavier than lead. You cannot pull your arm away. That would be an insult, a public rejection that would humiliate him and destroy any chance of future patronage. You cannot grimace. You cannot show any flicker of annoyance or discomfort. Your face must remain a mask of pleased serenity. So you smile, a gentle, professional smile, and place your other hand lightly on top of his. A gesture that can be interpreted as warmth but is, in fact, a subtle assertion of control, an attempt to neutralize the gesture without challenging it. You are a most generous host. You reply, your voice even and calm. It is easy to shine when one is surrounded by such brilliance. You gently steer the conversation back into the public sphere, away from this dangerous, private moment. This is the power imbalance that is so often glossed over in the romanticized tellings of the Hetaira as life. For all your education, wit, and economic independence, you lack the most fundamental power of all true autonomy. You do not have the power to say no without facing severe consequences. A citizen's wife, for all her confinement, has the legal and social protection of her husband and her family. If a man were to treat her with such forwardness at a public gathering, it would be a grave insult to her husband, a matter of honor that could lead to violence or legal action. You have no such protection. Your honor is a commodity you trade, not a right you possess. Historians grapple with this uncomfortable truth. They can point to court cases where Hetaira is sued for breach of contract, indicating they had some legal standing and were not simply property. They can highlight women who became incredibly wealthy and powerful, who seemed to be the masters of their own destiny. Yet, the literature is also filled with reminders of the precariances. A character in a play might speak of a Hetaira being unceremoniously discarded. A historical account might mention a politician being ruined by his extravagant spending on one. The relationship was always transactional, and the one with the money fundamentally holds the power. The host finally removes his hand to gesture to a slave for more wine. The moment passes. The immediate pressure is off, but the chill remains. You have been reminded of the truth. You are not a guest here. Not really. You are part of the service. You are a high-class, brilliantly executed performance. But a performance, nonetheless. Your freedom is a fragile illusion, a temporary pass granted by the men who pay for your company, and it can be revoked at any time. The wine in your cup suddenly tastes a little more bitter. The laughter in the room sounds a little more hollow. The performance must go on, but the actress is now painfully aware of how flimsy the stage is. The evening wears on. You have navigated the treacherous waters of philosophy, played the games of courtship and wit, and endured the subtle assertion of ownership from your host. The performance has been, by any measure, a success. And now comes the reward, or what looks like a reward. The host, flushed with wine and the success of his party, claps his hands for attention. A slave steps forward, not with a crater of wine, but with a small, rolled-up papyrus tied with a simple ribbon. The host takes it, his movements grand and theatrical, and presents it to you. A small token, he announces to the room, to show my appreciation for the grace and brilliance you have brought to my home. An expectant hush falls over the guests. This is more than a simple compliment. It's a public gesture, and its significance is not lost on anyone. You take the scroll. Your fingers, which have been trained to be so delicate on the lyre strings, feel a sudden clumsiness. You slowly unroll the papyrus. It's not a poem. It's a formal document, written in the cramped, official script of a notary. It is the deed to a small olive grove just outside the city walls. The room erupts in a chorus of impressed, slightly envious murmurs. This is no small gift. It's not a piece of jewelry or a vial of perfume. It is land. It is a source of steady, respectable income. It is a piece of Athens itself. For a woman in your position, it is a foundation stone for a secure future. You must react. You look up at the host, your eyes wide with what must appear to be stunned, overwhelming gratitude. You deliver a short, perfectly pitched speech of thanks, your voice trembling with just the right amount of emotion. You praise his unheard of generosity, his magnanimity. You are the picture of a woman whose life has just been changed by a godlike benefactor. But as you roll the papers back up, it feels heavier than a sheet of lead in your hands. A cold weight settles in your stomach, a feeling that has nothing to do with gratitude. You have just been paid. Yes, but you have also just been bound. This is the true weight of a gift. A simple cash payment is a clean transaction. A gift of this magnitude is a chain, forged from kindness and gilded with generosity. It is an investment, and the donor will expect a return. That olive grove will produce soil for years to come, and for years to come, you will be expected to produce gratitude, loyalty, and exclusive companionship for the man who gave it to you. You can no longer entertain the thought of politely declining his next invitation. You cannot afford to displease him. The invisible leash that connects a Hetaira to her patron has just been replaced with a thick, golden rope. He has not just given you a gift, he has made a public declaration of ownership. Every man in this room has just witnessed it. He has effectively announced, "This woman is mine. I am her primary patron." Other potential clients, like the handsome but feckless Crichton, will now have to back away. The general Lycomdes might still seek your company, but the dynamic has shifted. You are now the merchant's woman. This is a central puzzle for historians trying to understand your life. They unearth documents just like the one you are holding, property deeds, business contracts, last wills and testaments that show Hetaira accumulating significant wealth and property. One school of thought sees this as irrefutable proof of your economic power and agency. They argue that you were a astute businesswoman, leveraging your skills to build independent fortunes in a world that gave women few opportunities. You were not a victim, you were a real estate magnate in a saffron chiton. But another, more cynical school of thought looks at the same papers, scroll and sees a sophisticated instrument of control. They argue that a powerful patron didn't want a truly independent woman, he wanted a loyal one. By providing you with an olive grove, he eliminates your need to seek other patrons. He secures your exclusivity. He isn't giving you freedom, he's financing your dependency on him. Historians argue whether this document represents your liberation or the final, most elegant lock on your cage. You hold the deed in your lap. It is both a promise and a threat. It is security, but it is also a bond. You look at your host, who is basking in the glow of his own generosity, and you smile your most dazzling, appreciated smile. The gift is not the end of the performance. It is the reason the performance must now be more convincing than ever. The night is growing old. The oil lamps are beginning to sputter, their wicks trimmed down to a low flame, casting warm, dancing shadows on the walls. The air is thick and stale with the scent of wine, sweat, and fading perfume. The symposium is winding down. The men's conversations, once sharp and witty, have devolved into a slurry of sentimental pronouncements and half-finished arguments. Lycomdes, the general, is snoring softly on his couch. Crichton is trying to drunkenly recite a poem he can't quite remember. The party has reached the point of diminishing returns. You remain, a pillar of serene composure in the midst of this gentle decay. You have been performing for hours, and a deep, bone-felt weariness is setting in behind your mask. It is in this quiet, observant moment that you can almost feel the ghosts of the future leaning over your shoulder, watching you, trying to understand you. They are the historians, and they will spend centuries arguing about what you are. One group of these future ghosts will look at you tonight and see a trailblazer. They will call you an independent woman, an intellectual, a proto-feminist who seized power in a world designed to deny you any. They will point to this very evening as their evidence. They will highlight the moment you deftly sidestepped the philosophical trap, using your knowledge of Homer not just to survive, but to dominate the conversation with grace. They will admire your skill in the caught a boss game, seeing it as a metaphor for your life playing a man's game, but with a style and elegance that was uniquely your own. They will see the deed to the olive grove not as a chain, but as a hard-won asset, proof of your business acumen. They will see you as the true master of this room, A woman who used her mind as her primary to love liberation, who chose poetry and property over the silent drudgery of the loom. To them, you are a beacon of female agency. But then another group of ghosts will shoulder them aside, their spectral faces etched with pity and cynical realism. They will look at you, reclining on this couch, and see nothing more than a glorified, high-class courtesan, trapped in the most beautiful cage in Athens. They will argue that your intellect is not a sign of freedom, but merely your most refined selling point of feature, like your perfectly curled hair or your smooth, lead-whitened skin. Designed to appeal to a more discerning clientele, they will say you didn't win the philosophical debate. You just flattered the most powerful man in the room. They will point to the host's hand on your arm, to the chilling reminder that your body is part of the transaction, and they will look at the deed to the olive grove and call it by another name a retainer, a very expensive down payment for future services, binding you ever tighter to your master. To them, your freedom is a fiction, your business just a more polite word for your exploitation. You can almost hear their spectral arguments echoing across time, their voices passionate, certain, and completely contradictory. They will write books about you. They will build careers on dissecting your life. They will fight in lecture halls over the correct label to attach to you. And you, sitting here in the dying light of the symposium, know the truth that seems to elude them all. They are both right, and they are both wrong. Your life is not an either-or proposition. The debate is a luxury you cannot afford. You live in the crushing, exhausting, and sometimes exhilarating end. You are an intellectual and you are a commodity. You are a savvy businesswoman and your success depends on a man's desire. You feel a surge of power when you command a room with your wit, and you feel the sting of humiliation when a drunken hand claims you as property. The deed in your possession is a symbol of your success and it is the lock on your gilded cage. You don't have the privilege of choosing one of these identities over the other. You must be all of them at once. It is the fundamental, schizophrenic nature of your profession. To be just an intellectual would be to starve. To be just a body would be to be discarded on the street. Your survival depends on your ability to weave these contradictory threads into a seamless, believable whole. The host stirs, waking from his wine-induced stupor. The party is finally, truly over. As you prepare to rise, you feel the immense weight of this contradiction. The ghosts of the future can argue about the meaning of your life. You are simply trying to live it, to survive until the morning, and to be ready to begin the exhausting performance all over again. The departure from the party is slow, messy affair. You navigate the drunken goodbyes with the same professional grace you have maintained all evening, offering a final, charming smile to your host and a respectful nod to the other guests who are still conscious. Finally, you are back out in the cool, dark street, your slave lighting the way with her lamp. The walk home feels much longer than the walk there. Back in your own quiet rooms, you don't immediately fall into bed. The performance is over, but the work is not. You sit before your polished bronze mirror, the same one you faced in the pre-dawn hours. But the woman staring back at you now is vastly different. The perfect, sculptural hairstyle is beginning to wilt. A few strands have escaped their pins, and the whole structure seems to lean slightly, like a building tired of standing. The makeup, once a flawless mask, has been on your skin for nearly a full day. It feels heavy, greasy, and suffocating. You can see tiny cracks in the white lead foundation around your eyes and mouth, mapping the smiles and expressions you have feigned for hours. The kohl is slightly smudged. The woman in the mirror is no longer a goddess. She's a performer after a long, grueling show, her costume showing the strain. Your slave begins the delicate process of deconstruction. The ivory pins are carefully removed, and the elaborate coiffure comes tumbling down, releasing a cascade of now limp curls in the cleverly hidden hairpieces. Your own hair feels greasy with scented oil and beeswax. Then, with a soft cloth and a basin of water, she begins to wipe away the makeup. The red from your lips the soot from your eyes, and finally, the thick, toxic layer of white lid. With each wipe, you feel a little more human, a little more real, and a little more vulnerable. And that's when you see it, under the harsh, revealing light of the single oil lamp. As the last of the lead paste is cleaned from your temple, you spot it. It is almost invisible, so fine you might have missed it. A single white hair. It's not just a hair. It is a death sentence for your career. It is the first snowflake of a coming winter, the first crack in the foundation of your entire life. In your profession, beauty is not just an asset, it is the asset. And beauty means youth. The men who pay for your company, who shower you with gifts and praise your intellect, are buying an illusion of perfection, of timeless, divine femininity. A white hair is a brutal reminder of mortality, of decay, of the one thing your clientele does not want to be confronted with: time. A cold, sharp panic, far more intense than the pre-symposium anxiety, clutches at your chest. It's a purely professional dread. A playwright can grow old, his wisdom deepening with age. A general can grow gray, his scars and wrinkles badges of honor. But a Hetaira has no such luxury. Your value has a terrifyingly short shelf life. Your capital is your youth, and you have just discovered the first sign that your account is dwindling. This is the great, unspoken fear that haunts every woman in your trade. You see it in the eyes of the older Hetaira eye, the ones who have to try a little too hard, whose smiles are a little too fixed. You see them slowly being invited to fewer and fewer realist symposia, their patrons moving on to newer, fresher faces. This single white hair is the first whisper of your own obsolescence. Historians can track the careers of successful generals and politicians through records of battles and decrees, but the career trajectory of a Hetaira is almost impossible to map with any certainty. It's a history told in whispers and omissions. A name that is everywhere in the text for a decade might suddenly vanish. Where did she go, did she, like you hope, use her earnings to secure a quiet and comfortable retirement? Did she manage to find a long-term patron who valued her companionship above her fading youth? Or did she suffer the fate you now dread, a slow, inexorable slide into poverty and obscurity, forced to accept less desirable clients for less money? Her wit and learning forgotten as her beauty faded, the historical record is mostly silent on the matter of your decline. You reach up and, with a sharp tug, pull the white hair from your scalp. You hold it between your fingers, a tiny, silver thread. It's so insignificant, yet it feels as heavy as the deed to the olive grove. The deed represents a possible future, a foothold on security. This single hair represents the force that is actively working to pull that future away from you. You drop it into the lamp's flame, where its revalescent vanishes in a tiny, almost invisible puff of smoke. But you cannot unsee it. You cannot unknow it. The clock is ticking, and for the first time, you have heard it chime. The discovery of that single white hair hangs in the air of your quiet room like a ghost. It has planted a seed of cold dread that sleep will not erase. In the days and weeks that follow the merchant's successful symposium, you find yourself looking in the polished bronze mirror with a new, critical intensity. You scrutinize the corners of your eyes for fine lines, the curve of your jaw for any hint of softness. The daily ritual of applying your lead makeup feels less like an act of creation and more like a desperate act of preservation, a futile attempt to plaster over the inexorable march of time. Your patron, the merchant, is attentive. He sends gifts. He parades you at other gatherings, showing you off as his latest, most prized acquisition. You play your part flawlessly, your performance sharpened by the quiet panic that now underpins it. You are wittier, more charming, more attentive than ever before. You are working harder now, not just to win his favor, but to keep it. The moment you have been dreading arrives a few weeks later, at another symposium. This one is hosted by the general. Like this, it's a more traditional, established affair. The guests are older, The conversation more stayed. You are there, of course, as the now expected companion of the merchant. You feel secure in your position, the star performer in this familiar play. And then she walks in. Her name is Thais. She is new to Athens, recently arrived from Corinth, a city famous for its luxurious and beautiful courtesans. She is, perhaps, 5 years younger than you, and she is breathtaking. She possesses the kind of fresh, effortless beauty that you now have to work so hard to simulate. Her skin has a natural, youthful luminescence that no amount of your lip powder can truly replicate. Her hair, a cascade of authentic blonde curls, a genetic gift you have to imitate with damaging chemicals, is styled with a fashionable simplicity that makes your own elaborate coiffure suddenly seem fussy and old-fashioned. She is escorted by Crichton, a young aristocrat, who looks insufferably proud of himself. As she enters the undrawn, the effect is exactly what you remember from your old triumphant entrances. The conversation dips, the men's heads turn, but this time, the eyes are not on you. You watch, your face a perfect mask of pleasant neutrality. As the men's gazes linger on her, you see the familiar look of appreciation, of calculation, of desire. You see your own host, the merchant, straighten up, his eyes following Thais as she is led to a couch. His gaze is a little too fixed, his admiration a little too obvious. In that moment, you are no longer the brilliant, unique star of the evening. You are last season's news. This is the brutal, market-driven reality of your profession. There is always a newer model. There is always a younger, fresher face arriving from Ionia or Corinth, ready to captivate the city. Your value is based on novelty and desirability, and both are fleeting. You are a product in a marketplace that craves the new. You watch her as the evening progresses. She is clever. She has clearly been well trained. Her wit is sharp. Her laughter is musical. And she has a slightly different accent that the men find exotic and charming. She tells a joke you haven't heard before, and the men roar with laughter. You feel a pang of something ugly, a mixture of professional jealousy and primal fear. She is your direct competitor, and her primary advantage is one you can never reclaim: her youth. Historians often speak of the great Hetaira, a woman like Aspasia or the famous Phryne, who enthralled Athens for decades, but their stories are the exceptions, the tales of the one-in-a-million superstars. What the historical record rarely captures is the silent, constant churn of the hundreds of other women like you, for whom a career was a constant battle against the tide of younger rivals. The system is predicated on replacement. For every Thais who rises, an older Hetaira must begin her slow decline. You recline on your couch, sipping your watered wine, feeling a profound and terrifying sense of invisibility. You are still beautiful. You are still witty, but you are no longer new. You look across the room and see the future. It is young, it is blonde, and it is laughing at a joke told by your patron. The single white hair was a private whisper of your mortality. The arrival of Thais is a public proclamation of it. The ground beneath your feet, which you thought was solidifying with deeds to olive groves, suddenly feels like shifting sand. The symposium at the general's house marks a turning point. The arrival of Thais was not just an interruption, it was a changing of the guard, and you felt it in your bones. In the days that follow, the silence from your primary patron, the merchant, is a deafening roar. Before, not a day would go by without some form of communication. A slave would arrive with a short note, a single piece of fruit from his garden, or an invitation to walk in the agora. Now, there is nothing. The well-appointed entryway to your home, once a stage for arriving messengers, stands empty. The silence is a message in itself, colder and crueler than any spoken words. Your slave returns from the market one afternoon, her face carefully neutral, but you can see a flicker of pity in her eyes. You don't need to ask, you know. She has heard the whispers that travel through the city's network of servants like a contagion. The merchant has been seen with the new woman from Corinth. he took her to the theater. He bought her a bolt of that incredibly expensive silk from a newly arrived Phoenician trader. Every piece of gossip is a nail being hammered into the coffin of your arrangement. The invitations to symposia still come, but they are different. They are from less prominent hosts, men on the fringes of the circle you once dominated. To attend them would be a public admission of your demotion. To refuse them is to risk fading into obscurity altogether. You are caught in a social no man's land, your status plummeting with each day of your patron's absence. The anxiety begins to eat at you, not just socially, but financially. The deed to the olive grove is a comfort, a tangible asset, but an olive grove produces its revenue seasonally. It does not pay for the imported linen, the wine, the tutors, the rent on this elegant house. Those expenses were covered by a steady stream of gifts, the constant flow of cash and valuable goods from an attentive patron. Now, that stream has dried up to a trickle. You find yourself doing something you haven't done in years. You start to worry about money. You instruct your slave to use a less expensive grade of olive oil for the lamps. You reconsider buying a new lyre with the latest tuning pegs. Each small act of frugality is a quiet acknowledgement of your new, precarious reality. Your lifestyle, a carefully constructed performance of effortless luxury, is now threatened by the simple, brutal reality of a cash flow crisis. This is the harsh truth that historians, with their talk of assets and property, often struggle to convey. They can debate whether a woman in your position was a savvy investor cushioned by her holdings, or if she lived in constant fear of a market crash, her market being the whims of a single powerful man. The truth you are living is that you can be both at once. You are a property owner who is suddenly afraid she won't be able to afford her next meal. The olive grove ensures you won't starve in your old age, but it does little to prevent the terrifying, rapid collapse of your current social and economic standing. One evening, unable to bear the quiet of your home, you walk with your slave near the theater of Dionysus, and you see them, the merchant in ties, walking together, laughing. He has his hand on the small of her back, the same proprietary gesture he once used on you. She looks up at him, her face alight with a charming, practiced adoration that you recognize all too well. It's like watching your own ghost, played by a younger, more beautiful actress. You shrink back into the shadows of a doorway, your heart pounding with a humiliation so profound it feels like a physical blow. You have been discarded. It is the great, unspoken terror of your profession. There is no formal ending, no negotiation, no farewell. There is simply the transfer of attention. You are like a piece of furniture he has grown tired of, replaced with a newer, more fashionable model. He would likely not even see it as a cruel act. In his mind, he has been more than generous. He gave you an olive grove. After all, he has settled his account. From his perspective, the transaction is complete. You return home. The image of them laughing burned into your mind. The mask of the serene Hetaira is gone, washed away by a cold tide of reality. You are alone. Your primary source of income is gone. Your social standing is in free fall. You are standing on the edge of a precipice, and the foundation you thought you were building has crumbled beneath you. The future you had planned, a comfortable life financed by the merchant's gratitude, has vanished. A new, much harder future must now be forged. The sting of abandonment, though deeply personal, is also a professional crisis. The merchant's public shift of patronage sends a clear message throughout Athens. You are no longer the favored companion. The invitations to the most exclusive symposia dwindle to nothing. The smaller, less influential hosts might still invite you, but the fees, the gifts, are paltry, barely enough to cover your daily expenses. You are no longer sought after. You are simply available. This forces a harsh reckoning. The life of a Hetaira has a cruel and inevitable arc. You have soared, and now you are beginning your descent. But the descent doesn't have to be a freefall into utter ruin. You have one asset left, one thing that doesn't fade with your experience. This is where some women, like you, transition from being the star performer to becoming the manager of the stage. You still own your house. You still have the olive grove, producing a modest income, but it's not enough to maintain your current lifestyle, let alone save for true security. So, you begin to take on apprentices. The first is a young girl from the city of Thebes, brought to Athens by a desperate, impoverished family. She is beautiful, then utterly untrained. She knows nothing of Plato or Pindar, nothing of the subtle art of cosmetic, nothing of the dangerous game of intellectual flattery. She is, in essence, a blank slate. You become her didascalos, her teacher. The roles are reversed. You are no longer the student, sitting at the feet of a rhetorician or a musician. You are the master, imparting the very skills that built and sustained your own career. You begin with the basics. She has beautiful skin, but you instruct her on the proper application of cymeth, ion, and coal, teaching her how to create the flawless mask. You spend hours on her hair, patiently showing her how to coil curls around the hot columnist drum without burning her scalp, how to weed in false pieces to create volume and illusion. You teach her the subtle art of the saffron chiton, how to drape it to suggest elegance and allure without being crude. Then comes the intellectual training, the part you value most. You unroll the papyrus scrolls. You teach her the lines from Homer, the witty epigrams from Anacreon, the foundational concepts of philosophy. You coach her on how to engage in conversation, how to listen actively, how to ask just the right question to make a man feel clever. Never contradict them. Child, you tell her, your voice soft but firm. Guide them to believe they arrived at the conclusion themselves. That is true flattery. You also teach her the hidden rules of the symposium. Watch their eyes. You instruct her. When they begin to glaze, it is time for a song. When they lean in too close, it is time for a change of subject. You impart the strategic dance of the cosmetic game, the precise flick of the wrist. You teach her how to manage her patrons, how to diversify her income, how to navigate the intricate web of gifts and expectations. You teach her to keep a mental ledger, just as you have. This practice of older, Hetaira, training younger ones is well documented in historical accounts, but its precise nature is still debated among scholars. Some view it as a continuation of exploitation, a way for women to continue profiting from the trade of other women, perpetuating a system they themselves suffered under. They see the madam as little more than a pimp, albeit a sophisticated one. However, another perspective argues that this was a vital form of female solidarity and economic survival. In a world with no social safety nets, no pensions, and no traditional avenues for older, single women to support themselves, this was a logical and practical option. By training younger women, you are ensuring your own future. You are also passing on a unique body of knowledge the skills of wit, charm, rhetoric, and social navigation that were not taught in any formal school for women. You are empowering them, in your own way, to survive in a deeply challenging profession, just as you did. You watch the young band girl practice her lyre, her fingers clumsy at first, then slowly finding their rhythm. You see flashes of your younger self in her, the same ambition, the same hunger to succeed. You feel a strange mix of pride and melancholy. Her success will be your success, but it will also be a constant reminder of unfading glory. You are building a new career, one that extracts value not from your own beauty, but from your accumulated wisdom. It's a quieter, less glamorous existence, but it offers a kind of stability, a different form of power. The era of being the center of attention is over. The era of being the puppet master has begun. The quiet routine of teaching becomes your new rhythm. The days are no longer dictated by the frantic preparations for a symposium, but by the progress of your young student. You watch her carefully, refining her gestures, sharpening her wit, ensuring she grasps the delicate balance between allure and intellect. You see her go out, a fresh, vibrant presence in the city's social scene, and you receive the reports of her successes with a complex mix of professional satisfaction and a dull ache in your chest. Her rise is your retirement plan. The steady income she sends back a balm for your anxieties, but it is also a constant, painful reminder of the life you once lived, a life of dazzling performance and exhilarating attention that is now definitively behind you. You no longer apply the lead makeup to your own face, though your skin shows the faint, underlying pallor that speaks of years of its use. Your hair is simpler now, pulled back from your face, no longer a towering edifice. You are shedding the costume of the Hetaira, piece by piece, and as you shed the external trappings, you find yourself reflecting, in the quiet hours of the evening, on the very nature of the freedom you supposedly possessed. When you were younger, dazzling Athens with your wit and beauty, it truly felt like freedom. You owned property, you managed your own money, you moved through the public sphere with a confidence unthinkable for a citizen wife. You had access to ideas and conversations that were forbidden to most women. You carved out a life for yourself outside the confines of the oikos, a life that seemed to defy the expectations of your gender. But now, looking back, the shine has worn off, the illusion feels thinner. That olive grove, that symbol of your independence, it was a gift from a patron, a golden leash more than a declaration of freedom. Your property still ties you to the very system that created your vulnerability. Your intellect was a tool, honed for performance, rarely for genuine self-expression. You could speak with philosophers, yes, but you rarely offered your own, unfiltered thoughts on the nature of justice or the good life. Your voice was always calibrated for your audience, your words designed to flatter, to entertain, to secure your next meal. The freedom to walk the streets was shadowed by the contemptuous stares of citizen wives and the leering comments of men. The freedom to choose your patrons was ultimately constrained by the relentless pressure to secure income and maintain your reputation. One wrong move, one moment of true independence, and your entire, carefully constructed world could have collapsed. Historians today continue this internal monologue on your behalf, endlessly dissecting the concept of your agency. Some argue vehemently that you were, by the standards of the ancient world, truly free to escape the domestic prison, free to engage intellectually, free to build wealth. They see you as a powerful symbol of female empowerment against the backdrop of a deeply patriarchal society. Others counter that this is a dangerous romanticization, arguing that your freedom was merely the freedom to be exploited, to commodify your person, your intellect, and your body for male consumption. They point to the inherent power imbalance, the lack of legal protection, and the ever-present threat of decline and destitution. They argue that your choices were always circumscribed by the male gaze, the male purse, and male desire. Your autonomy was always conditional, a fragile illusion upheld by your ability to please. You, however, are no longer concerned with these academic debates. You have lived the reality. You know that it was both and neither. You had choices. Yes, that they were always choices within a very narrow, very dangerous set of parameters. You gained something, but you also lost something profound: the quiet honor of anonymity, the simple security of belonging, the legitimate claim to children and family in the eyes of society. As you said, listening to the soft sounds of your young student practicing hurl ire in the next room, you realized the extent of your trade-off. You sought a kind of glittering independence, a life far grander and more stimulating than that of your veiled counterparts, and you found it, for a time, but the cost was immense. Your freedom was never truly your own. It was, and always had been, an illusion, beautiful and fragile, sustained by relentless performance and the fickle favor of men. The sun dipped slower, casting long shadows across your now quieter, less glamorous world. The truth is, sometimes, a cage is still a cage, no matter how beautifully gilded it is. The years pass, as they do, each one adding another fine line to your face and another layer of dust to the papyrus scrolls you no longer read. Your young apprentice, the bang girl, is now a celebrated Hetaira in her own right. She has her own patrons, her own home even, though she continues to send you a share of her earnings out of a mixture of loyalty and contractual obligation. You have trained others since, creating a small, quiet business that keeps you comfortable, if not wealthy. The house is yours. The olive grove provides a steady, if modest, income. You have succeeded. You have survived. Your days are no longer filled with the frantic energy of performance or the focused intensity of teaching. They are quiet. You spend time in your courtyard, tending to the potted plants. You oversee your small household, much like the citizen wives you once pitied and judged. The rhythm of your life has become domestic, your world shrinking from the entire agora to the four walls of your home. The saffron chitons and silken adians have long been put away, replaced by simple, practical linen garments of a muted, respectable color. Sometimes, a man who knew you in your prime will see you at the market. He will be older now, too, his hair gray, his posture stooped. He might nod, a flicker of recognition and old memories in his eyes. You return the nod, a faint, polite smile touching your lips. There is nothing left to say. You were a character in a chapter of his life, and he in yours. That chapter is long closed. You think, sometimes, of the women you knew. Some, like the dazzling ties, burned brightly and quickly, her fame lasting only a few seasons before she was replaced by someone even newer. Others, less fortunate than you see occasionally in the city. Their faces hardened, their clothes shabby, their laughter too loud, their services offered for a handful of bronze coins in the shadowy alleys near the port of Piraeus. You were one of the lucky ones. Your intellect, your discipline, and a healthy dose of luck allowed you to build a lifeboat, while so many others drowned. What will be your final legacy in a few generations? Your name will be forgotten. You will not be remembered in the grand histories like a general or a statesman. You will not leave behind children who can claim citizenship and carry on your line. Your life will vanish, leaving behind only a few fragments for future historians to puzzle over. Perhaps the deed to your olive grove will turn up in an excavation, a silent testament to a woman who once owned a piece of Athens. Perhaps a single, offhand mention in a forgotten play is all that will remain of your existence. This is the ultimate, quiet tragedy of your life, a point that scholars of the future will endlessly circle for all the discussions of your agency, influence, and independence. Your historical footprint is almost non-existent. You lived a life in the blazing center of Athenian culture. You brushed shoulders with its greatest minds. You participated in its most important conversations. That you will be, for the most part, invisible to posterity. Citizen wives, though confined and silent in their own time, at least produced the sons who would go on to make history. Your legacy is more ephemeral, written on wine-spilled tablecloths and in the fleeting memories of men. Was the bright, brief flame of your public life worth the cost of being so utterly extinguished by time? You sit in your courtyard as the sun sets, the air cooling around you. You are neither a celebrated hero nor a tragic victim. You are simply a woman who played the hand she was dealt with extraordinary skill and survived a game that was rigged against her. You lived a life of profound contradictions, of dazzling heights and terrifying vulnerabilities, and you endured. In a world that offered women like you so few paths, perhaps that, in itself, is a quiet, unwritten kind of victory. The light fades, and the first star of the evening appears in the deep purple sky. Your performance is, at long last, truly over. The day has been long, so very long. The memories of the symposium, the weight of the makeup, the sting of a rival success, they all begin to melt away now, like wax left too long in the sun. You can feel a gentle quiet descending, a soft blanket settling over the sharp edges of the day. The sound of the lyre fades into a distant, sweet hum, a lullaby just for you. The arguments of philosophers become a meaningless murmur, like the gentle lapping of waves on a far-off shore. You are drifting now, on a calm and quiet sea. The faces of the men, once so important, so demanding, blur and dissolve into the twilight. Their praise and their judgment no longer had any weight. The heavy saffron chiton transforms into a light, comfortable sheet, and the hard couch of the symposium softens into your own bed. You are no longer performing. There is no one to please, no one to impress. There is only the soft, rhythmic sound of your own breathing, the quiet and steady anchor in the deepening dark. The world of Athens, with all its noise and striving and brilliant, cruel light, recedes. You are floating in the peaceful, silent space between waking and dreaming, a place where you are not the heat, the era, not a teacher, not a success or a failure. You are simply dead rest. Let the current carry you. Let the quiet embrace you. Your work is done. It is time to sleep. The end of the article. Good night.